Canada is a federal nation. This means most of us elect representatives to two orders of government that are constitutionally equal, but that each do different things. There's a federal government in Ottawa that takes care of national issues, and there are 10 provincial governments that take care of local matters. There are also 3 federal territories which don't have the same legal status but often act like provinces. In this video, we'll explore how power is divided between two orders of government, that is, the federal government and the provinces. In other words, who gets to do what? We'll also look at why Canada's founding fathers decided to divide power between two orders of government in the first place, and we'll look at how this division of powers sometimes leads to conflicts. To understand why power is divided between two levels of government in Canada, we have to take a look at Canada's founding. So Canada was created in 1867 when Upper Canada, which we now call Ontario, and Lower Canada, which we now call Quebec, joined together with Nova Scotia and New Brunswick to create a new country led by our first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald. The reason these British colonies decided to get together back in 1867 was that they feared that if they didn't join together and create one national economy and coordinate on defense, they'd be swallowed up into the much bigger United States, which had its eyes on all of North America at that time. But as much as these colonies had things in common, they also had big religious, linguistic, and cultural differences, and so they wanted to maintain control over as much as possible that they felt that they didn't need to give up to Ottawa. So they came up with what was called the Division of Powers, which they wrote into the Constitution Act 1867. Section 91 of the Constitution Act says that the federal government in Ottawa may exclusively make laws in relation to trade and commerce, the post office, the military, shipping, banks, interprovincial railways, and the criminal law. It also says they can make laws for the peace, order, and good government of Canada. Section 92 of the Constitution Act 1867 says provinces may exclusively make laws in relation to forests, hospitals, local roads and railway lines, property rights, civil rights, and matters of a local and private nature in the province. In 1982, Section 92A was added to clarify that provinces can make exclusive laws in relation to the development, conservation, and management of non-renewable natural resources like natural gas, oil, and lumber, and the production of electrical energy. The division of powers is a genius system because it allows decisions that are best made locally by provinces, like healthcare or education, to be made closer to home, while those decisions that are best made by a national government, like defense or international trade, get to be made in Ottawa. If it weren't for this division of powers, it's unlikely that provinces as diverse as Quebec, Alberta, and Nova Scotia would even want to be in the same country together. But here's the problem. Not every matter that comes up can be neatly placed into either Section 91, 92, or 92A. A lot of things that the governments have to contend with weren't even in existence in 1867, like airplanes, or the internet, or climate change. Back in 1867, no one was really concerned about the environment, so there's no head of power that says who is in charge of climate change emissions. As a result, the provinces and the federal governments have long fought about who gets to regulate this area. Take, for example, the carbon pricing scheme, sometimes called the carbon tax, which charges industries every time they create climate change-causing emissions like carbon dioxide. The federal government introduced this measure to combat climate change, arguing that climate emissions are a global problem that extends beyond any one province or country, and so this means that carbon pricing is in their jurisdiction under peace, order, and good government. This tax was popular in provinces like British Columbia and Quebec, where much of their energy is produced using water, which is emissions-free, but it was very unpopular in provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan, where their economies depend on harvesting oil and gas, which creates climate emissions. They said the carbon pricing, which makes their oil and gas more expensive, interferes with their exclusive power to manage the development, conservation, and management of non-renewable natural resources. And so these provinces challenged the carbon tax in court. They argued it's unconstitutional. The case went to the Supreme Court of Canada, and in 2021, the federal government won. Judges found that this was within their federal jurisdiction under peace, order, and good government. But Alberta and Saskatchewan were still not happy. In fact, some residents were so angry that they said they want to separate from Canada. That prompted the federal government to negotiate with those provinces that are angry to try and find a way to balance their climate change goals with people's livelihoods in the oil and gas sector. As with many things in a federation, it's not always clear which government gets to do what, and that means sometimes both levels of government are forced to find a way to cooperate.